Imagine waking up each morning not as if you had countless days ahead of you, but as if today was a complete life in itself. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of Rome, began each day reminding himself that the dawn was a gift, and how he used it would shape not just his day, but his destiny. What if you could borrow his wisdom and craft a morning routine so powerful that it grounds you, strengthens you, and prepares you to face anything life throws at you? When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. These words, penned by Marcus Aurelius nearly 2,000 years ago, remind us of something we often overlook: the miracle of simply waking up. Today, more than 150,000 people around the world will not see another sunrise. And yet, here you are, alive, breathing, capable of choosing how this day unfolds. Gratitude isn't just a soft sentiment. It is the foundation of Stoic strength. Without it, we rush blindly into tasks, chasing goals while forgetting the gift of the present moment. With it, we anchor ourselves to reality, resilient against chaos. So the first Stoic ritual every morning is simple, but powerful. Begin with gratitude. Picture the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He rises before dawn, the weight of an empire on his shoulders. War at the borders, politics in the Senate, betrayals in his own palace. And yet, instead of rushing into decisions, he pauses. He opens his journal and writes, "When you arise in the morning, remember what a precious privilege it is to be alive." Why would the most powerful man in the world begin his day with thankfulness? Because he understood something profound. Power, wealth, and success mean nothing without perspective. Gratitude grounds us in the only certainty we have, the present moment. And now modern science confirms what the Stoics intuited. A study from the University of California, Davis found that people who wrote down just 5 things they were grateful for each day were 25% happier after 10 weeks. Their health improved, they exercised more, and even their sleep was better. Gratitude literally rewires the brain, strengthening the prefrontal cortex, the part that governs resilience, focus, and decision-making. Gratitude is not wishful thinking, it is mental training. The Stoics practiced it daily because they knew storms will come, battles will rage, but a grateful heart is unshakable. Here's a simple, Stoic-inspired practice you can try tomorrow morning. Before reaching for your phone, sit up in bed and take 3 deep breaths. Name 3 things you are grateful for. They can be simple: the warmth of your blanket, the sound of birds, the chance to try again today. Write one of them down in a notebook, just one. Over time, this notebook becomes your own meditations, like Marcus Aurelius. This takes less than 3 minutes, but the effect ripples throughout your day. You train your mind to look for abundance instead of lack. The Stoics knew this well. Seneca once said, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." Epictetus reminded us, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." And Marcus Aurelius himself declared, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Gratitude shapes those thoughts. But here's the paradox of gratitude. When you truly appreciate life, you also recognize how fragile it is. Gratitude leads naturally to our second Stoic lesson. Memento Mori, the reflection on mortality. Because to value life, you must also remember that it will not last forever. So I ask you, what 3 things will you give thanks for tomorrow morning? Write them down, share them. Inspire someone else to begin their day with gratitude. Because when we begin with gratitude, every sunrise becomes not just another day, but another life fully lived. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. These words from Marcus Aurelius strike at the very heart of Stoic wisdom. Death is not a comfortable topic. We avoid it, we push it aside, as if pretending it doesn't exist will make it disappear. But the Stoics believe the opposite. They practiced memento mori, remembering death, not to live in fear, but to live with urgency, with clarity, and with gratitude. Think about it. If today were your last day, would you spend it scrolling endlessly, arguing over small matters, or worrying about things beyond your control? Or would you live with focus, with purpose, and with love. Memento Mori is not morbid. It is a compass. And every morning, reflecting on mortality can transform how you live the rest of your day. Imagine Marcus Aurelius during the Marco-Manic Wars. He was not only an emperor, but a general, living among soldiers in tents, not palaces. Each day he faced the possibility of death, on the battlefield, from disease, or from betrayal. And yet in his journal he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This was not despair, it was liberation. By remembering the inevitability of death, he sharpened his choices. He didn't waste time on vanity. He didn't cling to possessions. He focused on virtue, on justice, on duty. And what about us today? We live longer, healthier lives than almost any humans in history, but paradoxically, we fear death more, and we avoid the subject completely. Statistics remind us, globally, the average life expectancy is about 73 years. That means roughly 26,645 days. If you're 30 years old, you may already have spent around 11,000 of them. This isn't meant to depress you, but to wake you up. Every morning you spend remembering mortality is a reminder that time is your most precious currency. You wouldn't waste gold, so why waste your days? Psychologists at the University of Kentucky found that reflecting on death actually increased gratitude, improved focus, and reduced materialism. People who practice Memento Mori daily reported making better decisions about health, relationships, and work. The Stoics said it plainly. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Epictetus reminded us, "I cannot escape death, but at least I can escape the fear of it." And Marcus Aurelius declared, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." So how can you practice Memento Mori each morning? Start simple. Look at your calendar for today and ask yourself, if this were my last day, which of these tasks truly matter? Which are just noise? Choose one action of virtue. Maybe it's calling someone you love. Maybe it's finishing a project with excellence. Or maybe it's forgiving an old hurt. Then say out loud, "I could leave life today. Let me live with courage, wisdom, and kindness." This small ritual aligns your mind with what matters. Instead of running on autopilot, you live deliberately. Think of Steve Jobs, who said in his famous Stanford speech, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." Jobs practiced a modern form of Memento Mori. Each morning he asked himself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And whenever the answer was no, too many days in a row, he knew it was time to change direction. When you combine gratitude with the awareness of mortality, something powerful happens. Your days become sharper, clearer, more meaningful. But awareness alone is not enough. The Stoics believe we must also set intentions, guiding principles that shape not only what we do, but how we do it. And that is our next lesson. So tomorrow morning, ask yourself, if this were my last sunrise, how would I live today? Would you love more? Forgive faster? Speak with more kindness? Write it down. Live it out. And remember, a Memento Mori is not about fearing death. It's about finally learning how to live. If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. These words from Seneca cut through the noise of daily life. Every morning, most of us reach for our to-do lists, emails to answer, calls to make, tasks to complete. But the Stoics remind us, life is not just about checking boxes. A busy day is not the same as a meaningful day. Marcus Aurelius never asked, "What do I need to finish today?" Instead, he asked, "How must I live today?" The difference is subtle, but profound. One is about productivity, the other is about purpose. Tasks are external, intentions are internal. Tasks get done, intentions shape who you are becoming. Picture Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by generals, politicians, and citizens, each demanding something of him. His days were packed with urgent matters, wars at the borders, famine in the provinces, disputes in the Senate. And yet, when he opened his journal in the morning, he didn't write a checklist. He wrote reminders of virtues. Let not your mind be enslaved by passions. Let justice guide your actions. Let courage shape your decisions. Why? Because he knew tasks are endless. You can always do more. But if you don't set intentions, your day will be dictated by others, their priorities, their emotions, their chaos. Intentions anchor you to your values. Modern science echoes this. Research from the University of Scranton shows that 92% of people fail to achieve their New Year's resolutions. Why? Because they set goals without grounding them in intention. A resolution says, I want to lose weight. An intention says, I want to live with discipline and care for my body. The difference is powerful. Psychologists found that people who set intentions, values-based commitments, were more than twice as likely to follow through with their goals than those who only listed tasks. Think about it. A task says, go to the gym. An intention says, honor my body with movement. A task says, have a meeting. An intention says, practice listening with patience. One may end with a box ticked. The other ends with a life shaped. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. And Seneca reminded us, life is long if you know how to use it. So how can you practice this tomorrow morning? Pick one virtue on courage, wisdom, justice, or temperance. Write a simple intention. For example, today I will practice courage by speaking honestly in my meeting. Repeat it aloud. Let it guide your day like a compass. And notice how your choices shift. Instead of asking, did I finish everything? You ask, did I live my intention? Consider the example of Admiral James Stockdale, a U.S. pilot and prisoner of war in Vietnam for 7 years. He credited Stoicism, especially the discipline of setting intentions, for his survival. He didn't know when or if he'd be freed. He couldn't control the outcome. But each day, he set intentions. Today I will endure. Today I will hold to my principles. That intention kept him alive. And later, when asked how he survived, he said, I never lost faith in the end of the story, but I confronted the brutal facts of my reality. Intentions give us direction. But the Stoics didn't stop there. To strengthen character, they practiced voluntary discomfort, testing themselves against hardship before hardship arrived. And that is our next lesson. So tonight, before tomorrow begins, ask yourself, what intention will I live by tomorrow? Write it down, share it. Let it shape not just your tasks, but your character. Because tasks may fill your schedule, but intentions will fill your soul. If you would not have a man flinch when the crisis comes, train him before it comes. Seneca's warning is as true today as it was 2,000 years ago. We live in an age of comfort, soft beds, instant food, climate control at the touch of a button. And yet the Stoics warned, too much comfort makes us weak. Life will throw storms at us. Loss, failure, rejection, pain. And if we've only ever lived in ease, we'll break. That is why Stoics practice voluntary discomfort. They didn't wait for hardship to arrive. They invited it in small daily doses, so that when real hardship came, they were ready. Take Seneca, one of the wealthiest men of his time, with estates, influence, and luxuries. And yet every month he deliberately lived as if he were poor. He ate coarse bread, wore rough clothes, and slept on the floor. And he asked himself, is this the condition I so feared? He discovered that discomfort was survivable, and more, it made him free. Fear of loss vanished because he trained himself to live with less. Today, psychologists call this stress inoculation. Research shows that exposing yourself to controlled challenges builds resilience. A 2019 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that cold exposure, like ending your shower with icy water, reduced stress hormones and boosted immune response. Athletes who trained under tougher conditions reported 30% greater mental toughness compared to those in easier environments. It's like a vaccine. A small dose of difficulty prepares you for larger challenges. So how can you practice voluntary discomfort? You don't need to abandon civilization. Start small. End your shower with 30 seconds of cold water. Skip breakfast once a week and notice that hunger is temporary and manageable. Dedicate a day to simplicity. Wear plain clothes, eat simple food, walk instead of drive. Remind yourself that you need far less than you think. The Stoics put it simply. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And Seneca urged, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest fare and with coarse clothing, saying to yourself, 'Is this what I feared?'" Think also of modern examples. Navy SEAL training designed to push humans to the edge of endurance. Why? Because when bullets fly, only those who practice suffering can stay calm. Or entrepreneurs like Elon Musk, who once said, "I would eat only hot dogs and oranges just to see if I could survive with little money. I realized I could, and that gave me confidence." By embracing discomfort, you build inner strength. But the Stoics didn't only train their bodies, they trained their minds too. And one of the most powerful tools for that was journaling with honesty. That is our next lesson. So tomorrow morning, try one small act of voluntary discomfort. End your shower cold. Walk instead of drive. Skip that extra coffee. Then ask yourself, is this what I feared? You'll discover what the Stoics knew. Comfort doesn't make us free. Resilience does. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates' words remind us of a truth the Stoics lived by. They believed in one tool more powerful than wealth, weapons, or status: a simple notebook. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations was never written for us. It was his private journal where he wrestled with anger, fear, ambition, and mortality. He wrote not to impress, but to confront himself honestly. That is the fifth Stoic habit. Journal with honesty. Because without reflection, we repeat the same mistakes. With reflection, we grow. Picture Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, sitting by candlelight after long hours in the Senate. Soldiers await orders, citizens await justice. But Marcus writes to himself, "At dawn, when you rise unwillingly, let this thought be present: I am rising to the work of a human being." He confesses his frustrations. People are selfish, life is short, power corrupts. But he also guides himself. Be patient, act with justice, remember your principles. His journal became a mirror for his soul, and today science validates what Marcus knew. Research from the University of Texas shows journaling improves immune function and reduces stress. A 2018 study in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that writing about emotions lowers anxiety and sharpens focus. Leaders like Oprah Winfrey and Richard Branson credit journaling as the foundation of clarity and decision-making. Journaling isn't just reflection, it's strategy, it's mental training. The Stoics put it simply. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Seneca wrote, "We are always complaining that our days are few and acting as though there would be no end of them." And Epictetus taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." So how can you apply Stoic journaling each morning? Ask 3 questions. What am I afraid of today? What do I hope for? How can I live with virtue? Keep it honest. Don't write for others. Write as if no one will ever read it, and keep it short, 1 page only. Even 5 minutes of raw truth reshapes your mind. Think of Admiral James Stockdale, who survived 7 years as a prisoner of war. Without pen or paper, he practiced Stoic journaling in his mind. He rehearsed thoughts like Marcus. "I cannot control what they do to me, but I control my response." That habit saved his sanity. You don't need prison or an empire, just a notebook, a pen, and courage to face yourself. Journaling clears the mind, but the Stoics also knew the mind needs quiet. And in our noisy modern world, that means practicing the art of disconnection to reconnect. That is our next lesson. So tomorrow morning, before emails or news, pick up a notebook. Write with honesty. Ask yourself, who do I want to be today? Because your journal isn't just paper. It is the blueprint of your soul. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius' timeless reminder points us to the heart of Stoic discipline. Every morning, before we even take a breath of fresh air, many of us reach for our phones, emails, social media, notifications, and in seconds our minds are hijacked by the world. The Stoics warned against this slavery to distraction. True freedom begins not with control over the world, but with control over your mind. That is the sixth Stoic lesson. Practice presence. Picture Marcus Aurelius facing the chaos of Rome, senators arguing, soldiers demanding, citizens complaining. He knew he couldn't control every voice, every crisis, but he could control his response. In meditations, he reminded himself, external things are not the problem. It is your judgment about them, and this you can erase right now. For Marcus, presence was discipline. He trained his mind not to be carried away by anger, fear, or noise. Today, distraction is our greatest enemy. Studies show the average person checks their phone 96 times a day, once every 10 minutes. Research from Harvard found that the human mind spends 47% of waking hours wandering, not in the present, but lost in past or future. And the cost: anxiety, poor focus, wasted life. But presence changes everything. A 2011 Harvard study revealed that people reported being happiest when fully present in what they were doing, regardless of the activity. Even washing dishes mindfully brought more peace than daydreaming about the future. The Stoics knew this truth well. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Seneca reminded us, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." So how do we train presence each morning? Start small. Before touching your phone, take 5 deep breaths. Focus only on the air filling your lungs. Choose one simple action: drinking coffee, brushing your teeth, and do it with full attention. Notice textures, smells, sensations. And when worries arise, ask yourself, is this under my control? If not, release it. These micro practices strengthen your ability to stay anchored in the moment. Think of Michael Jordan, who once said, "The key is being in the moment. Not the last play, not the next, just this one." Olympic athletes train this discipline because excellence depends on presence. If the greatest athletes and leaders rely on it, why shouldn't we? Presence gives us calm strength. But the Stoics also prepared their minds for storms ahead by visualizing hardships before they arrived. That practice, premeditatio malorum, is our next lesson. So tomorrow morning, before you let the world in, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, I control my mind, not events. Write it down. Say it aloud. Because when you master presence, you master your life. What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. Seneca's words remind us of a timeless truth. Life rarely unfolds as planned. Emails arrive with bad news. Projects fail. People disappoint us. Yet most suffering comes not from the event itself, but from our shock at it. The Stoics had a remedy: premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Each morning they imagined possible hardships, not to despair but to prepare. Picture Marcus Aurelius standing at dawn in his tent during the Marcomannic Wars. He knows today could bring betrayal, defeat, or even death. So he steels himself by writing, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, today I will meet interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." By expecting resistance, he transformed frustration into readiness. When hardship arrived, he met it calmly, not as a victim, but as a strategist. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. Researchers at New York University found that people who mentally rehearse difficulties perform 30% better under pressure because they are less surprised and more prepared. Athletes visualize mistakes before a game. Firefighters train for worst-case scenarios. And when reality hits, they act with clarity instead of panic. The Stoics express this with precision. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them." Epictetus reminded us, when something happens, the only thing in your power is your attitude toward it. And Seneca warned, "He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary." So how can you practice premeditatio malorum each morning? Take 2 minutes. Visualize the day's obstacles: a delayed train, a rude colleague, a failed plan. Picture your calm response. Instead of anger, see yourself breathing deeply, choosing patience. Then affirm control. I cannot control events, but I control my reaction. That simple exercise transforms how you face the entire day. History gives us powerful examples. Admiral James Stockdale, who survived years as a prisoner of war, credited this practice for his survival. He said, "The key is to prepare for the worst while never losing faith in the end of the story." Entrepreneurs, athletes, and soldiers do the same today. Elon Musk once admitted he expected his companies to fail, but acted anyway. By imagining failure, he freed himself from fear. And so the 7 Stoic practices come full circle: gratitude, mortality, intention, discomfort, journaling, presence, and visualization. Each one is a ritual, not just to start your morning, but to shape your entire life. So tomorrow morning, don't just hope for an easy day. Visualize a hard one. Expect challenges. And when they come, smile, because you've already rehearsed your calm. Now, I'll leave you with a question. What challenge do you expect tomorrow, and how will you face it with stoic calm? Write it down. Share it. Inspire someone else to prepare as Marcus Aurelius did, not fearing storms, but mastering them. Picture Marcus Aurelius, rising before the Roman sun, writing in his worn notebook by candlelight. The empire's burdens waited outside his chamber, yet he began not with worry, but with philosophy. Like him, you too can anchor your mornings in wisdom, preparing not just for a day, but for a life well lived. Which of these 7 practices will you add to your mornings? Share it in the comments. Your insight may inspire someone else on their stoic journey. And if you wish to carry the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius with you daily, subscribe, like this video, and let us continue walking this timeless path together.